Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Andy Cortez coming at you from Valencia, California. And I'm coming at you with some information about our election that we're having in the state of California, complete and total farce. I did some digging on getting registered for voting in the state of California. And it turns out that we can actually get registered to vote anywhere from throughout the world and just say that we're a citizen of the United States of America. We don't have to show a driver's license. We don't have to show a social security number. And what that means is we can use any address throughout the entire state of California. That's why the Benny Johnson show was out there showing things like people were getting registered to parking lots with just a porta potty on it. So there was as many as 26 people that were registered to a parking lot with a porta potty on it. So I did some digging on it and I took some pictures on it, and I'm going to put them in the thread when I'm finished up with everything here. But it actually states that you don't have to be living in the state of California or even in the United States of America in order to be registered as a voter in the state of California. It's strictly on an honor system. So now what happens is when they ask you for an ID, you don't have to show a driver's license number and you don't have to show a social security number, which means that if you're people from China, you can flood the voter rolls with all kinds of people from China or from Africa or from Europe or from wherever. So the thing that you have to understand is that American citizens were very honorable people. And what that means is we don't really generally go out there and inspect where fraud can occur because we trust our people that we have elected to protect us. But now what we're running into is a situation where the Democrat politicians of the United States of America are no longer working in the best interest of American citizens throughout the United States of America, throughout California. Now what they're looking for is they're looking for a way to exist as a Democrat party in the United States of America because they know that the end is coming near for them. And people are like, well, what do you mean the end is coming near for them? Well, the thing that you guys have to remember is when you have to cheat at such an exponential level in order to keep your party afloat and keep moving in a certain direction, it means that you can no longer function through truth, honesty, and integrity. And people go like, well, can you tell me some more? Like, I'm not quite sure if I understand that. Well, basically what it means is that CNN, MSNBC, and the media companies that were around the state of California have pushed these Democrat politicians as these elite people that are somehow supposed to be protective of the state of California, but in fact, they're actually hurting us. And people go, well, how do you figure? Well, everybody got behind Eric Swalwell as the Democrat politician for the state of California to become governor of the state of California. And they knew that he had a problem with women. They knew that he was a diddler. Becerra knew, Javier Becerra, the guy that's running for governor as the Democrat nominee for the state of California, he knew that Eric Swalwell had a problem. Dictator Newsom and Nancy Pelosi both knew that Eric Swalwell had a problem. And what they did is they exploited the problem to use for blackmail at a later date. So someone in the Democrat Party filmed him having relations with a sex slave. And this probably isn't the only one. I would imagine that a man like Eric Swalwell that has a problem with women is going to have many women that are sent to him, and there are probably many recordings that are out there. And I would imagine that this process is something that they've used throughout the Democrat Party to be able to control politicians. If you just look at the Jeffrey Epstein files and how the Jeffrey Epstein files and blackmail and all that stuff occurred out there, you can manipulate major politicians across the board throughout the United States of America. So now what happens is we come to elections in the state of California, and the Democrat Communist Party is going to be ousted because what happens is the Republican values that are in the state of California, they're coming on the rise. So now what happens is guys like Sheriff Chad Bianco have gone out there and ran an honest campaign. Both he and his wife, Denise Bianco, have run an honest campaign. And what's happened is that during this period of time, there's been a flood of votes that are mysteriously coming in after the deadline. They're mail-in votes. And so when you have mail-in votes, they can be mailed in from around the world as long as they say that you live in the state of California with no proof. So now what happens is I look at everything that I found online today, and I look at what the future of the Democrat Party looks like in the state of California, well, it looks very bleak for them. So no one in their right mind wants to vote for illegal aliens coming in, free medical for illegal aliens, higher gas prices, higher taxes, and more business restrictions. There's nobody out there in the state of California that wants to vote for this. So what the news is doing is the news is piping in the Democrat communist construct so people believe that. And then what they do is they bring in votes from around the world, these fictitious voters from around the world, and they go in to the United States of America, California voting polls. So now what happens is, even if their own Democrat Party does not want to vote for Becerra, and they stay home and they say, man, I don't want to vote for any of these Mickey Fickies. I don't want to vote for Tom Steyer. I don't want to vote for Becerra. I don't want to vote for anybody. I'm going to stay home in apathy and I'm not going to vote. Just forget about them all. I'm not voting for anybody. What would happen is you can have a landslide of votes fictitiously made from around the world to go into California and to be able to elect a dirty Democrat politician in the state of California or anywhere throughout the United States of America that doesn't use voter ID and citizenship in order to prove that the voter is a real American citizen. Because just so you guys know, only real American citizens can vote in a United States election. So you have to very, very, very much understand how privileged and how empowered you are to be a bona fide American citizen in the United States of America. So now people go, well, how long has this been going on for? Well, it's been going on for a long time. And now what's happening is these leftist Democrats are getting desperate because when Elon Musk brings in the robots, that means that that slave workforce that comes from the illegal aliens is no longer needed. So these 20 million illegal aliens are going to get taken out. And what's going to happen is that census is going to go lower, and these Democrat communist politicians are going to lose their power in California, Oregon, and Washington. And what's going to happen now is the Republican values and the Republican American citizens are going to be empowered to go out there and vote again. So that way we can make California the right state to be in and make it more affordable for people to live in. So when you hear these Democrat politicians that are out there, they talk about making life more affordable, but they never give you the way that they're going to do it. They never say, hey, we're going to lower fuel taxes. Hey, we're going to lower property taxes. Hey, we're going to repeal back the sales tax in the state of California. They don't do any of that. All they say is, oh, life is not affordable and it's President Donald J. Trump's fault. That's not the case. What's been going on in the state of California has nothing to do with President Donald J. Trump. It has everything to do with the Democrat communist one-party rule throughout the state of California for the last 25, the last 30 years. So the way that you fix that situation moving forward is that you have voter ID in the state of California, which is something that Carl DeMaio, Sheriff Chad Bianco, I myself have all been advocating for, is to make sure that we have voter ID throughout the state of California, which is going to come up on the next set of elections, is where we're going to be able to vote on that and make sure that everybody knows that California ID and ID in an election is very important, because you don't want to have any more elections where you can have votes from outside of the country come in as a quote unquote US citizen, because they never checked the ID. They never checked the social security number. They never checked anything. It was just an honor system, which meant that if you had bad people that were out there, which there's a lot of them, there's a lot of bad people that are out there, and the Democrat Party is full of them. You could go in there and stuff the voter rolls with all kinds of fake voters. So the thing that I love about President Donald J. Trump is he likes to put the flashlight on the people and shine the flashlight down on the cucarachas. So now what happens is, the one thing that you have to understand about desperate Democrat politicians in the United States of America is you let them be who they want to be so you can see what they would rather do and catch them in the act of doing all this bad and illicit stuff. So now, what supersedes which law? Does state law supersede federal law, or does federal law supersede state law? Who's more powerful? The governor of California, Gavin Newsom, or President Donald J. Trump? Which one? I got news for you. It's President Donald J. Trump right here. He's the boss. He's the most powerful man in the world. And he's backed by Elon Musk, which is the richest man in the world. So now I've got Elon Musk. And guess who else I got? I got Steve Hilton with British MI6. And I got his wife, who's a British citizen of Britain that works for Google and works for Facebook and works for Netflix. And what have we learned throughout this whole process? We've learned that Sheriff Chad Bianco ran an honest campaign. By the book, did everything by the book. No robots. Everybody was real humans. Anybody that you interacted with online were real people, like me. I'm a real person. I was interacting with all kinds of people, thousands of people, millions of people online, doing everything I can to get Sheriff Chad Bianco elected. Now, Becerra was working with people from throughout the nation. He was working with people from Oregon and Washington, whatever the case may be, and he was possibly working with people from China and possibly working with people from Cuba, Mexico, and Venezuela in order to get him elected because he's friends with Chirla, which is Chirla. Now, people go, well, Andy, you're brown. How could you be against Becerra? Well, identity politics means that you're too dumb to understand that you could put a demon in a set of brown skin and have him run as a United States governor and you'll vote for him. And people go, what? Say that again. It means that they can put anybody in brown skin in the packaging and he could be a demon. And if you're not smart enough to associate and understand what a demon looks like walking amongst us, then you'll vote for him. It's called identity politics. And the thing that you have to understand is that Democrat politicians have used racism in order to weaponize it against the citizens of the United States of America. So now what happens is communism does not care what color you are. That's why there was white communists, which were Russian, Soviet Union communists. There were Cuban communists, which were Latin. There were Venezuelan communists, which were brown, like me and you, and many other people that are out there. Or there's Chinese communists, which come from China and from Vietnam. So when you're out there and you're thinking, well, identity politics, I want a Mexican in there because he's Mexican like me. No, dude, he's a communist. So when people fled Mexico or fled Venezuela or fled all these communist nations, they came here to the United States of America because it was a safe haven and there was freedom. They didn't come here so they could make United States of America like Cuba or like China or like Russia or the Soviet Union. They came here to be part of the American experience, the United States of America freedom experience, where you could vote for the person that you wanted to vote for because he was the best candidate and he should win because he's the best man for the job. But somewhere through this process, the Democrat communist construct has been perverted with their vision for the United States of America. That's why they believe in abortion, so they could take 20 million American citizens out of the census. They're just not born. So they can bring in illegal aliens to replace them. Now they have a block of 40 million souls that they control. That's evil walking amongst us in order to control that 40 million. So then the Democrat communist construct wants to go out there and advocate for transgenderism in children because they know that those transgenders, if they get 1 million per year and transgenders at 350,000, it's like $350 billion per year in transgender mutilated surgery. And these children grow up to vote Democrat because their body parts have been chopped off and now they're slaves to Big Pharma and the Democrat politicians of the United States of America. And people go like, wow, Andy, is it really that drastic and bad that this stuff is all going on? Yes, it's really that drastic and bad. It's legitimately, it's good versus evil on the plane of existence on Earth right now, happening right now. And people go like, dude, Andy, you're crazy. You're nuts. I don't believe that. I believe in science. Well, dude, the devil would want to make sure that you don't believe in God so he could pervert you with science. Because science, people believe the people that are paying the most for those scientists to be able to go out there and project a vision or a thought. That's why Bill Gates is out there projecting his vision and his thought with all his money, because he believes that his science, quote unquote, is going to save humanity. But in fact, he's killing off humanity with his mRNA vaccines. And so Becerra is part of that. Javier Becerra is part of that program, which is the Democrat communist construct, the vaccines, and the lockdown protocols that went into effect in the state of California and throughout the United States of America. So when you do the research on Becerra, he's a Joe Biden boy all the way through and through. He's a terrible man for the state of California. And you know what he's going to do? Raise your taxes, transgender your children, abort your babies that you can't afford because of the Democrat communist construct. They don't want American citizens to make American citizen babies because they can't control American citizen babies as well as they can control illegal aliens. And people go like, what do you mean? Well, what happens to an illegal alien if the Democrats don't stay in office? They all get booped out, right? So these illegal aliens are really slaves, and they're begging for their slave masters to stay in office, because if not, they're going to get booped out. So the 750,000 illegal aliens get the Democrat communists one extra seat in Congress. So if you have 20 million illegal aliens, you get 26.6 extra seats in Congress. So now what happens is these Democrat politicians are fighting for their power in the state of California because they know that once they lose California, they've lost everything across the entire United States of America. Because what will happen is anything that happens in California, we will now create in Washington and Oregon, and we will fix those states. And they have completely lost. It's like a domino effect. So what happens was the Democrat communists put the United States of American citizens to sleep all this time with Hollywood. That's why it was so important for the P. Diddy situation and the Jeffrey Epstein situation to be uncovered and unraveled, so you can show how perverted Hollywood was to be able to keep control of the actors and the voices of the United States of America. So now what happens is all these actors and all these politicians and everybody that was associated with Jeffrey Epstein and P. Diddy, well, they've been exposed to the US of A. And this exposure of corruption and blackmail is going to be a stain on the Democrat Party for decades and centuries to come, as in this election that's happened in the state of California, where instead of it being June 2nd, that's the cutoff date. You know what? We're gonna do the June 2nd election, and once June 2nd at 8 o'clock happens, whatever the votes are in, that's it. We're gonna count them as votes. No, they're not doing that. They're saying, well, we have all these mail-in votes that came from around the world that we still have to record in the state of California. And people go like, I don't know what to think, Andy. I don't know how to verify that or unverify that, or if I have the time to verify that or unverify that. Well, I'm going to give you an example. The only reason why we have mail-in votes at the scale that we have it right now is because of COVID-19. And the thing that you have to remember is there's no COVID-19 that's happening in the state of California where people couldn't make it into the voting offices and vote in person. The only reason why mail-in votes were allowed to persist is because the Democrat Party knew it was the only chance that they had in order to cheat and stay in office. Because California, people like me have been working to get the Republican content and the Republican values out to the United States of America, and we're winning. So now people are like, whoa, I never thought of it that way. So President Trump, Steve Hilton, and Sheriff Chad Bianco had to let the Democrat politicians of California do what they do best, cheat, so they can catch them in the act. Because what happens now is the play-by-play, this will be studied for decades and centuries to come to make sure that it never happens again. It's sort of like saying like this. Horace F. Page in 1875 made the Page Act, which kept Chinese people from being enslaved in the state of California, Arizona, and New Mexico as prostitutes, if they're women, or if they were on work camps as slaves, work slaves throughout these work camps throughout the United States of America. And Abraham Lincoln stopped slavery in 1865 when he won the Civil War, and he eliminated black slavery throughout the United States of America so they could no longer own black children black men, black women. And that's the reason why all the senators and congressmen that were black all were Republican for like 100 some years, because they understood what it was that the Republican values always were. The Republican values were the values of freedom. It was the values of, hey man, you know what? Let's go out there and make America amazing together again, and let's keep taxes low, let's keep industry high, and let's keep a strong military. Those are the Republican values. So now what happens is people don't understand what it is that the Democrat communist construct has done in the United States of America, because they've been so busy chasing their paycheck to pay for the bills that the Democrat communist construct has weighed in on them. So when a person has enough time to think, they can start to extrapolate information at a record level. But if they're so busy working and they're so busy solving problems and they're arguing with their wife, or they're chasing the kids around, or they're taking their kids to school, or they're putting gas in the car, or they're paying their mortgage, or they're mowing their lawn, and they're doing all these things, they don't have time to understand what it is that the Democrat politicians have been doing to them all this time. Because A, as an American citizen, we trusted the Democrat Party, which was unfounded. We should have never have trusted them. And number two, we didn't know how bad it actually was. But when you take a look at the millions and billions of dollars that have been stolen from the state of California through NGOs that these Democrat politicians have created to enrich themselves and their friends and family, then you really have to start to take into consideration how bad it's been and for how long it's been going at this rate. So now, who has the most to gain by making California Democrat communist? Well, Democrats do. China does. That's why a lot of the CHIRLA crowd, the Chirla crowd, they have ties to communist China. They have ties to Mayor Karen Bass, and Governor Newsom has ties to China and Xi Jinping. So now what happens is, if you're trying to find a way to be able to manipulate the votes, China can help them with that. China can say, hey, this is what we advise to do. We've got the manpower to be able to create these fictitious votes. And, we can get hundreds of thousands of fictitious voters to be able to pack the rolls and use addresses in the state of California with no driver's license and no social security number and no proof of citizenship. They're just going to lie. They're going to lie and say that they're an American citizen in that system in order to be an active voter. So now what happens is, you can use an address in the state of California, and you can use a mailing address that's outside of the country, so you can get your vote outside of the country, and then you can mail it in, and it shows your residency in California, but your mailing address is in China, or it's in Mexico, or it's in Canada, or it's in Britain, or it's in Africa, or it's in the Soviet Union. Well, it's not Soviet Union anymore, it's Russia. So now what happens is, the idea and the premise is that you can really see in real time how quickly that the American voting system can be used against the United States of America to take it over from within. And so now people go, well, where's your proof? All you got to do is go get registered to vote in the state of California. Go look at the voter rolls. Go get registered. It clearly states right there, check one box. And you can say, I'm a U.S. citizen, but I permanently do not reside in the United States of America. And I'm a resident of California. I've got a California, but I don't have a California ID. So all these things that you're looking at, they're really happening in real time. And so President Donald J. Trump, the FBI, the CIA, MI6, everybody's been watching these California elections, letting dictator Newsom do exactly what he wanted to do so we could see who he'd rather be. And he's not supporting the United States of America any longer. He's supporting Gavin Newsom, and he is no longer fit for office, and he's no longer fit for politics in the United States of America. So had Charlie Kirk been alive, Well, Charlie Kirk probably would have exposed him a long time ago because Charlie Kirk is an amazing man. So March 6, 2025, Gavin Newsom does his first podcast with Charlie Kirk. And then in September 10th of 2025, Charlie Kirk is assassinated. I don't think that's a coincidence. I think the fact that Charlie Kirk was so smart scared the Democrat Party because they thought that this genius is going to unravel everything that the Democrat Party did to the United States of America. And in fact, he did. He did a lot of amazing things. But then what President Donald J. Trump said was the people that come after, meaning behind Charlie Kirk, the Democrat Party is going to like even less. And that would be Andy Cortez. That would be me. Born in Northern California, born and raised in California, and lived here for 47 years, and then 3 years in New Jersey. So the thing that you have to understand is I understand how many states work, and there are many amazing things. And one of the things that Dictator Newsom speaks about is how people have this thought pattern about how bad California is. Well, when you live in other states and you visit other states, you start to see how bad California really is because the fuel prices are terrible. They're out of control. The rents and the mortgages are out of control. Dictator Newsom doesn't understand any of this because he's funneling money to his wife's NGO to the tune of $5 million so they can live in a $9 million home that they brought from the Pritzker family back in 2025. And people go, Andy Cortez, how do you know all this information? How do you know everything that you're saying? Well, when you stop and you are able to do all the research that's necessary to understand what the Democrat Communist construct has done, then what happens is you can start to put everything together and understand it. Now, here's the thing that you have to understand is everything that I do on film with these projects and these programs that I'm doing, I send directly to the FBI and I send directly to the White House. So now what happens is Dictator Newsom can't hide from this because he has all the same information that I have, and the White House has all the same information that I have. So now what happens is I'm not lying about anything, so I have nothing to hide and nothing to worry about. And the thing about the Democrat Communist Party is they love to be able to leverage people and find what vices they have so they can hold the dirty laundry over their head and suppress them with it. So now what happens is when the Democrat Party is going forward in time, they no longer have leverage against the citizens of the United States of America because we're getting smarter, stronger, and faster. And people like Elon Musk and people like President Donald J. Trump are enabling American citizens with knowledge and information so that way they can no longer be leveraged. The thing that you have to understand is when you go to college, they indoctrinate you into these Harvard and Princeton and UCLA and UC Berkeley, and they teach you about the Democrat Communist construct, and you come out of college with a $400,000 to $600,000 student loan debt to pay for your Juris Doctorate. And the Democrat Party loves these people because they go, oh, well, we've got these bright minds and we've got these amazing people, and look, they're enslaved to these student loans, so they're not going to mess up and they're going to do whatever we say because now if they don't pay back the student loan debt, their credit's going to go to shit. And you know what's going to happen? They're not going to have a job anymore. And you know what? We can control them. So we want that guy. Now, President Donald J. Trump goes out and makes the University of the United States of America, and he makes an education for free. Well, how many people are going to sign up for that? No one's going to go to Princeton, and no one's going to go to Harvard anymore. And no one's going to want to spend $500,000 and $600,000 to go get an education to be enslaved to the Democrat Communist construct. And the Democrat Party knows this. So now what happens is we have 2 or 3 generations that have been enslaved to the Democrat Communist construct. But moving forward, as we create the new future of the United States of America, those old vices and those old ways of slavery are no longer there. I don't know about you, but if I had $600,000 in student loan debt for me to be able to get my Juris Doctorate, I would think that I'm enslaved because I have to pay back that debt to Princeton and Harvard for the $600,000 that I owe at 10% in interest. So in the old days, they called that indentured servitude. In this day and age, they call it student loan debt. So now what happens is, why don't we just create a higher education that's free for all American citizens, so long as you're an American citizen with a valid ID and a valid social security number, you have access to come to the University of America. And people are like, whoa, never thought of that. And Harvard and Princeton are like, shut that guy up. Don't let Andy Cortez talk to anybody else anymore, because what he's saying makes total sense, and we're fucked if President Donald J. Trump makes the University of America like he plans to make. Because now what happens is people go, well, why do I want to take on that much student loan debt when I can go to the University of America for free, and I can still go out and go get a great job, and I could be taught by President Donald J. Trump and Elon Musk and the brightest minds in the United States of America that come here to be able to instruct everybody remote. You could just hop into your laptop computer, you could take your classes online, and bing, bang, bong. You could participate through Zoom, you could do all these things, and the University of America can actually reach into 349 million Americans' homes and be able to give them a proper education at a collegiate level. That would be a modern day miracle that can be done, because I've got this live video. And if I had 20 million viewers that were on my live video, they would have access to all of this content. So now imagine the University of America makes all their content for free, and they give it to 349 million American citizens. They just give it. Say, here, you're an American citizen. You deserve this knowledge. It's yours. The Democrat communist construct no longer holds power in the United States of America, and they know this is coming. They know the robots are coming. They know the borders are shut, and they know that President Donald J. Trump and J.D. Vance are not going to let this corruption level stand in the United States of America. They know what's happening. It's the end of the Democrat Party in the United States of America. And you're witnessing it, and you're living it. And this is the history in the making. And Donald J. Trump, President Donald J. Trump, and Elon Musk, and even Stevie Hilton and Sheriff Chad Bianco all figured this out. And now, through this discovery process, the whole rest of the United States of America is going to learn about it too. And this will be recorded in history for decades and centuries and thousands of years to come. So it will never happen again. So with that being said, long live the Republic. God bless you and your families, and amen. I love you all. Have a great day, and we'll chat with you soon. Stay tuned in for more, and replay this as many times as necessary, and share it with all your friends and family members, because it's important stuff. And whoever wants to take this information and make their own video about it, by all means, send it to me when you're done, because I'd really like to see it. I'm always open to new opinions, and I'm always open to new thought processes. So with that being said, you guys have a great day, and we'll chat with you soon. Bye.